Testing 1, 2. Testing.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock, so we'll get going. What apologies do we have?
Graham Evers, Matt Pope, Susan Pasnage, Helen Watson, Giorgio Familico and Philip Bell.
Yes, the officers. I know. Well, Matt Pope's gone to Aber with his daughter and wife, so okay. And the minutes of the previous meeting. Has anyone any comments on page 1? Half a minute. We'll find out where. Page 2. I saw, where was it? Under Councillor Margette's referred to the financial information. The financial balance was 24.24. So that that's a bit impossible, so that just needs correcting. I know it's a minor thing, but let's okay. Page 3, page 4, and that's it. Okay. Thank you very much. So have we got any declarations of interest? Sorry.
Thought you were.
Oh, do I need to vote? Yes. Okay. I'll propose it and you can second it.
Yeah.
All those in favour? Thank you. Okay. Have anyone got any declarations of interest? No. There's no public here, I don't think so. And we haven't got any member questions either. It is. Never seen him. Oh, he is. Okay, Lewis.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Which one am I going for first, sir?
The Better Care Fund end of year report, and then the planning after that.
Outstanding. I trust that you've all had a look at the paper prior to coming today, so I'll just quickly whistle stop our way through it. With regards to the national conditions that are set down for our Better Care Fund, we've met those. This year is the first year we're going to do it. We've done no, sorry, that's the next bit. So yeah, we met all the national conditions, which is fabulous. We've met the funding requirements as well, which is good. Overall, we believe that the Better Care Fund has improved our joint working between our health and our social care partners in the locality. We think that our schemes were very well implemented, especially given the really high pressure at the moment within our health and social care colleagues, which I'm sure that everyone can attest to. We also delivered all of the pilots, programmes and schemes from our programme last year. With regards to successes, we'd like to highlight our collaborative reablement project, where we've upskilled home carers, delivering reablement to people in the community, which has been overseen by occupational therapists, including the outcome staff, the goal planning, the reablement planning too.
You're not allowed in. No, you're not allowed in there.
And
Joseph,
also our second success is linked to
you need to go above
our pilot. Our second success is around our pilot called Keeping in Touch, which is our voluntary sector stick like glue to people who are at risk of admission. Really great referrals coming through from our GPs and our colleagues at BHFT from the urgent community response section, which has been really fabulous. Challenge wise, it still continues to be difficult sharing data and understanding, being able to access the data that we all can. Our connected care has been really good and taken steps forward, but it's still not quite where we might like it. And also discharge from hospital. We've explored this year as a part of our programme, looking at a shared discharge computer system. And other than that, staff recruitment across all of our different partners has also been a challenge. The good news is that we hit all of our targets last year for the Better Care Fund around admission avoidance, around discharge to usual place of residence. So that means going home or going to the care home from whence you sadly went to hospital. The number of placements that we made into care homes as well, we met the target for that. And also the number of people who are at home 91 days after they were admitted to hospital, so after they were discharged from hospital. So overall, a pretty good story at the end there. So yes, happy days. That's the end of year report done in a whistle-stop fashion.
And hitting your targets is quite an event, because it doesn't happen that often, does it, Will?
No. So I've been involved with the Better Care Fund for too many years now, I think 6 or 7, and this is the first place I've ever been where we've hit, or that I know of, that has hit that whole year target at the end of the year. So it's incredibly impressive. And whilst I thank you for saying that me and my team have done it, Councillor, I would more suggest that we look at our colleagues in Berkshire Health Foundation Trust, our social work colleagues, our OTs, our care providers, our GPs, our fabulous hospitals, all of those people that do the real hard graft. You know, my team support the planning of these things and support with some of the funding, but we don't do all the work. If only I could.
And it's great that everyone's worked together. In fact, you conduct it, but it's good that people work.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Lewis. That's really helpful. Your presentation of the report, and I think given the success has been as a result of great teamwork across all of those involved, I think it's very appropriate we record in our minutes our thanks to all those involved for the work that's gone in to this really outstanding performance. I mean, to be on track to meet target in our current target is really good. So that's really good. So thank you very much.
I think the good news there is that for Q1 we hit our targets again for this financial year. Q2 we're still in the midst of, but one of our targets we're not looking super good on, but we're going to miss it by a few percent, if that. So again, quite a good news story that this fabulous performance from all these partners continues.
Has anyone else got any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment. And again, Lewis is really good at downplaying some of the skill that the teams have. As you may or may not be aware, that the national team, kind of, if you do really well, they then increase the target. So you've got to do even better year on year. And obviously we've still got that hangover from COVID, when obviously less people kind of did go in for quite a long time. So actually to achieve this is amazing, absolutely amazing.
I think we've discovered that no good deed goes unpunished. The more you do, the more you're asked to do.
So generally speaking, the way and the manner in which NHSE support are setting for, as a rule of thumb, there's more that goes into it, but generally speaking, the performance, you can't set a target that is any worse than last year's performance for obvious reasons, because if you've worked really hard to get to there, then you need to kind of keep pushing. But there is a limit to which the pushing can go sometimes, and it is absolutely incredible to, like I say, to see it. So we're very lucky that our partners have all banded round and we've hit those. Shall I move on to the next one, sir?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea. Thank you. So that's the Better Care Fund's planning submission.
Outstanding. So very similar thing. If this would hurry up and open, then I may be able to discuss it. So, and again, the same thing again. I'm going to assume that everyone's had a quick squiz at these. This one's slightly less interesting than the other one. So with regards to the Better Care Fund, overall the Better Care Fund looks to operate in 3 key areas, which is around admission avoidance, which would include falls, discharge to ensure we're getting people out of hospital quickly, and health inequalities. So this year we've tried to make it easy for our partners, and we've kind of grouped all of our projects in that sort of a fashion. We have got a number of projects, as you can see, across the different key pieces. With regards to the plan itself, we have income and expenditure piece, so we meet the requirements, again, those national conditions for our expenditure. With regards to our target setting, you can see all the detail there around how we've done it, but these targets have been agreed by all of our partners. It's a really good fun exercise for us to do, but just to understand that we've looked at the bits and pieces that we're currently doing and set the targets as a result of those that performance last year. And with regards to the planning requirements, as you can see, we have a jointly agreed plan. There is still funding in place for social care maintenance. We've got our out of hospital schemes from the NHS supported. We have our plan for all of our projects this year supports us to implement BCF policy objectives, and this expenditure plan has been agreed by all of our partners, and our targets have been agreed as well by all our partners in NHS England. So our plan is in a good state. Obviously, we're kind of retrospectively agreeing it here, which is a kind of subjunctive, which often appears within our BCF land, where we mid-year will start to do the piece of work we're around planning and everything else. But the plan's all been agreed by all of our partners at our leadership board, and it's been agreed by NHS England. So yeah, that's our plan for the year. It's looking good. We're already well on the way for delivery on several of the different the projects within that.
Thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions on that? Stephen?
It's not a question. It's again, just thanks and congratulations for drawing this up. It's very interesting. You've got agreement. You've got agreement from all the parties on elements you've described is in itself a considerable achievement. So congratulations to all involved.
The full plan itself is somewhat much less slimline than that which has been presented to you. I think it's about 30 pages of narrative and about a 10 or 12 page, forgive me, I can't remember, spreadsheet as well. So it's yeah, I'd rather be able to fill in what it is that you've been handed this evening.
Thank you. I can't see any other questions or comments, so we'll move on to Advance Against Women and Girls strategy. Is this good for Narinda?
Hello, good evening. Hello. So this will, I think, for you have Philip down on the agenda, but it is myself. So just to introduce this item. So I'm Narinda Brar. I'm the Head of Safety and Enforcement, and hopefully I trust members will have had a chance to read through the report in the agenda pack. But just by way of an overview, the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy was approved by executive on the 28th of September this year, so 2023. But due to some of the sort of timing issues with Wellbeing Board meeting, and in terms of the timings of the report going to executive, the strategy was agreed subject to presentation to the Wellbeing Board today, and inviting any comments with relation to the strategy, and subsequently any changes being amended together with the executive portfolio holder and the director of place and growth. So the things to really highlight are that the Wokingham Community Safety Partnership will take ownership of the Violence Against Women and Girls strategy. And the next stage, now that the actual overall strategy has been adopted, will be to develop an action plan. All stakeholders, all relevant stakeholders, and especially those with a voice in terms of victim and survivors, will be asked to and invited to help shape the action plan, which is currently now in development. The draft action plan will then go on to the Community Safety Partnership in December, and the Community Safety Partnership meets every quarter, as part of which, as I've said, the voices of victims and survivors will be important to inform the plan. So there will be a vast amount of work being undertaken to ensure that that voice is very strongly reflected and implemented in terms of an action plan. The priorities for the plan, just to take you really quickly through the priorities of the Violence Against Women and Girls, is priority 1 is putting the victim and survivor at the centre of service design and delivery. As I said, that will form a really strong foundation in terms of the action plan that we develop now following the implementation of the strategy, and taking a strategic and system-wide approach to commissioning. So from that victim voice, we will then have a look at and do a mapping exercise of which and what systematic changes in terms of services and commissioning of different services that we may need to change in relation to ensuring that those victims and survivor voices are heard, and the changes to systems and service delivery is reflected through commissioning and other processes. Having a clear focus on perpetrators and holding them to account was the third priority in the strategy, and then safeguarding and supporting individuals and victims at every point with a strong emphasis on early identification and help. So this is really about getting in very, very early at the start of the violence against women and girls experiences. This is about developing work together with our public health colleagues through PSHE, through schools work, through tackling and talking and challenging those conversations about misogynistic views, about a cultural shift in terms of the way we think about violence against women and girls as a society. So a real long-term plan and priority, which will take some time, no doubt, to filter through in terms of seeing the benefits and the changes in that. The other two priorities, priority 5 is about raising local awareness of the issue and involving and engaging, empowering communities, again, to design and deliver solutions. So this is about not delivering a pre-decided plan or action plan. This is really about listening to the local voice of local victim survivors, because our local experience and the local experiences will be the interesting the thing that we're most interested in terms of developing a plan that is very much localized for Wokingham and the Wokingham experience of victims. And then lastly, but of course not least, is changing inappropriate attitudes and behaviours of men and boys. So again, talking about the challenging of those attitudes and the long-term behavioural change of men and boys to reduce that violence against women and girls. And then, of course, some of you will have been party to the White Ribbon accreditation workshop that was held on Monday, and will be aware that in relation to the violence against women and girls strategy, one of the key pieces of work that we are doing is in relation to implementing and going for, as an organisation, White Ribbon accreditation, which again will help us as an organisation, WBC in particular, to in relation to WBC, implement the violence against women and girls strategy and some of the pillars, help to implement the pillars within the strategy. And with that, Chair, I'll take some questions if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I was just going to ask, I note the priorities in here, which I fully support. I note also you said you're going to produce a plan. Will that plan have firm kind of actions and KPIs and be reported back regularly so that members can monitor progress?
That's the idea, absolutely. So we hope to put in an action plan that's got the SMART targets that you would expect to see in terms of trying to track and really show the implementation of the actions, because some of the actions, as you can see, they're very long term and they're very ambitious in terms of changing attitudes and that sort of behavioural attitude priorities and ambitions. But some of the other actions in terms of other measurable qualitative measures will certainly be implemented in terms of the action plan, which will be, so some actions no doubt will be easier to measure than others, but we will ensure that the action plan does have smart targets as you would expect to see.
Thank you for that. Sorry, just one very quick supplementary. I know everything you've said, and will that be reported back to members on a fairly regular basis?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So we will report back via this book, so Wellbeing Board, but also via the Community Safety Partnership, and also overview and scrutiny via the end of year report as well. So we'll ensure that reporting back mechanism is built into the action plan.
Okay. You'd like to go? Alice?
Is it me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Narendra. Thank you, Chair. How much of public involvement has been put in for this strategy? Because, you know, there's always an element that the public is not aware of all this. So how much of the public is involved?
So we undertook a very public and full stakeholder consultation when the strategy priorities were implemented, Alice. So that was towards the beginning of the year. So that was full and comprehensive consultation in respect to, like I said, the strategy part and the building of the priorities. The next stage is also very much about local stakeholder involvement. So that will also involve public engagement, engagement with victims and survivors, and engagement with stakeholders, and anybody who has an interest and a voice, would like to have their voice, their opinion, their lived experience considered in terms of the building of the action plan. So there will be another opportunity. So the public have been fully consulted in terms of, but I fully take that, you know, that was for a period of time, and sometimes, you know, that isn't the only opportunity, luckily, for this strategy going forward. And also in terms of the action plan, it will be a live document. So whenever we get new experiences and new engagement from residents coming forward and the public coming forward, there's always a chance to make that action plan iterative and changing in terms of how the experiences and the information comes forward and rolls forward to us. So very much a live document, not static in terms of that involvement from an engagement perspective.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. The question I was going to ask was along Charles's question lines, which about reporting back, and I realised that it's going to be owned by the Community Safety Partnership, but I think we want an update at least annually, just on your progress. But I had a couple of other points. One is about the White Ribbon campaign, which obviously feeds into that sixth priority about the behaviour of men and boys and influencing that. Is really important. And I just wanted to point out that the chair of this committee is looking at becoming or being one of the people that is champions. That's the word I was looking for. Ambassadors. Yeah, for White Ribbon, which I think is really well done on his part. And I'd also like to thank directors in the council who have also stood up as staff members to do that, and we're grateful to them for that. And the other thing is about just reminding people that this is a strategy about violence against women and girls. It is not a domestic abuse strategy. And the two things are distinct and shouldn't be muddled up. And I'm sure the people here don't muddle them up, but there is sometimes a tendency to people to think one is subsumed within the other, and they are actually separate. There's overlap, but they're not the same.
But this is, I feel this is really important. And what I'm not getting around the table is people who think they want wholesale modification of it. It's fine to go forwards, and I don't think we're going to be recommending any changes from the look of it.
Stephen.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Narinda, for your presentation, but also for your role and that of your colleagues in drawing up the strategy and all you're doing on the action plan. This is immensely important work, and I think we're all grateful for it. And the object of bringing this before the board was to see whether those who have not had the chance yet to comment, and of course executive members have had the chance, would like to suggest any changes. And I think it's a testimony to the great work you and your colleagues have been doing that this, if I may use a pun, gets through with a clean bill of health. So thank you very much. And could you pass on our thanks to all of your colleagues?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. That's I will pass those on. And a very helpful reminder there by board members about the distinction between violence against women and girls and domestic abuse. And whilst there is a interplay, of course, it is distinct in terms of its agenda and its space. So this is wider than just domestic abuse. This is, of course, about sexual violence. This is about women feeling safe in public spaces. This is about misogyny. This is about, online abuse. So distinctly wider, absolutely distinctly wider, and as a clear direct link, as a space or a borough that is safer for women, by very nature of being safer for women, will be safer for all. So those public spaces are used by both men and women, and become safer by very nature of increasing the safety for one section of society. We do absolutely increase it for all involved and using those spaces. So thank you very much. That's a very, very helpful reminder about the distinction between the two clear workspaces.
Debbie.
Yeah. I mean, you've probably already kind of considered this, so forgive me if I'm kind of teaching the converses, but I think it's really important to realise that we're kind of multinational in Wokingham, and we've got a lot of different faiths and cultures. And sadly, I'm a GP, I'm still seeing women who will tell me anything and everything. But then some of the services we refer on to, they're a little bit hesitant. And to give a for instance, is a lady that told me what was going on, referred to a team that was going to support her. Unfortunately, it was a male that rang, and she picked up the accent was similar to hers, and she was worried that they would make assumptions about her, so she didn't divulge very much at all. So it's when we're trying to put together support for these women and girls, we need to just think about how do we manage those beliefs, expectations, and support them appropriately.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. So that's the kind of lived experience of local residents that we're really encouraging to come forward and tell us firsthand experiences about when we're building the action plan, because this really then feeds directly into that system change approach that we're talking about, because it's only through those experiences can we think about commissioning services that's right for local residents to deliver local services that meets their needs, that isn't perhaps narrow in its focus, narrow in its thinking, and a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't necessarily work all of the time for this agenda. So absolutely, what I would encourage is for the next step, if members have experiences or have particular individuals that would be would like to share their experiences, then please do put them in touch with us or ask them to reach out, and we will be, the next stage will be about trying to collectively coordinate a response from those victim survivor voices to build this action plan.
Thank you very much. And I don't think there are any more questions. So, and thank you for that. And thank you that, you know, we can now go forward. And yes, some of it will take time, but if we don't start somewhere, we won't start at all. So that's important. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we need to formally note the recommendations and agree them? Yeah.
Okay. So if I propose them, have I got a seconder? Stephen seconds them. UK. Okay, all those in favour? So that's everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Or is this Emily?
Good evening. And can I ask Amy and Fiona and Louise to join us to introduce themselves, because this is very much a partnership piece of work and I can't take all the credit. I'm Emily Higson. I'm Head of Insight Strategy and Inclusion at Wokingham Borough Council. I'll just ask colleagues to introduce.
I'm Louise Livingston, Assistant Director for Corporate Services, working alongside Emily, alongside the other partners in the Hardship Alliance.
I'm Fiona Price. I'm the Chief Executive of Age UK Berkshire.
Hi, I'm Amy Garstang, Manager at Wokingham United Charities.
Okay, I'm just going to share some slides if that's okay with you. I'm sure you've seen them already in the pack, so I'm not going to labour over them, but they're quite a useful prompt for me. The reason we're here really is to raise awareness with the Health and Wellbeing Board of some of the projects, tackling poverty projects that are being delivered in Wokingham Borough over the next year. Hopefully we want to identify any links there might be to existing services or projects so that we're not trying to duplicate or create things that are already happening, and hopefully look for potential for collaboration where those things are already existing. And also, if there are any potential gaps or opportunities that we could consider for our third year of the strategy, which will be from June next year, then hear about those as well, and we can start thinking about what we're going to do beyond the current year. Very briefly, for those who aren't familiar with the Hardship Alliance, just a bit of background. It was formed in 2022. And its members are Age UK Berkshire, Citizens Advice, First Days, Children's Charity, the Council and Wokingham United Charities. And we are all equal partners, so it's 1/5 voting rights and contribution to the partnership. Two of the key things that the Hardship Alliance has delivered on is that it's co-produced Wokingham's first Tackling Poverty strategy, which was launched in June last year. And it also led the Wokingham community response to the cost of living crisis last winter. So the Tackling Poverty strategy itself, as I say, it was launched last year. Its key aims are around lessening the short-term effects of poverty, into poverty, better support for people who are living in poverty, and enabling residents to better address the barriers to overcoming poverty. It was co-produced, as I say, with the Hardship Alliance, but there was a lot of public consultation with residents and with community groups to understand what the issues were. That consultation also identified 3 key cohorts that are most in need of support. So that's people in persistent hardship that we tend to know about already, people who are just about managing, so just on the kind of edge of being in poverty or maybe have tipped into poverty now. And also there are a large number of people who are asset rich, cash poor, so they might own their own home, but not have access to a ready supply of cash or money. So we've already delivered 1 year of the Tackling Poverty strategy. Some of those key achievements are up there. the focus for the first year was really about building capacity in the voluntary sector. So we've supported a debt advisor in citizen advice, a community coach. We've also strengthened some of our processes within the council around equality impact assessments and making sure that all our decisions consider low income as well as the other protected characteristics. So what we've done in that year is really create a good foundation for some of the more proactive and community-driven projects that we're now looking to deliver this year. So that's really the key part of what I want to talk about is our year 2 action plan. We did a lot of work at the start of this year thinking about all the underlying causes of poverty, the different things that affect the different people in Wokingham. We looked through different lenses, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we came out with these 4 strategic themes, which are cost of home life, cost of school life, cost of a fulfilling life, and challenging mindsets. And from that, we came up with a high-level action plan. We were very fortunate that the council was able to give us some funding to support a number of these projects as well. So I can talk a bit about those particular projects now. Under cost of home life, we have 3 high-level actions. The first one, it's around really giving people access to lower cost nutritional food. So it's really about relieving the pressure from some of the crisis provision, such as the food bank and share, because they've seen such a huge increase in demand, and a lot of that is now repeat. People coming back week after week for support. So we decided to establish a community food project, and I can say now, because I think the press release has gone out. We've awarded some funding to the Wokingham Food Bank and Share and First Days as a collective group to establish a community pantry. So that's going to be set up initially in Norries Church, and that will be a way of people accessing low cost food, not free food parcels, but people will essentially pay a membership fee of about £5 a week, and they'll then be able to come once a week and purchase about £30 worth of groceries. So that's fresh food and other supplies that they might need. The second project is really around working with partners to improve coordination of things that are essential for a household. We're calling it Make a House a Home. And to start with, we're focusing on people who are moving temporary to permanent accommodation. And this is really about coordinating all the amazing things that are already happening in the voluntary sector. So we know some charities can supply white goods, some might be able to come in and provide beds, curtains, other essential items. And it's really about connecting everyone up at the right time, so that if someone's coming into a situation where they maybe have secured a permanent home for the first time in a long time, but they don't have the things they need to make it a home, we can support them with that. And the third project under here is providing debt advice and sustainable borrowing and saving opportunities. So we've been working, for example, with the local credit union as to how we can support people to go to them instead of a doorstep lender or a less sort of suitable lender for somebody who's in hardship. And it can also support them to learn how to save and budget. We're also doing a staff session for council officers and trying to understand the kind of issues that people are facing when they're coming in through the front door, and how we can be a bit more joined up within the council in terms of supporting people who maybe have debts in a number of different places, and how we can work together on that. So the second area is cost of school life. So we're aware that there are a number of different costs around the school day that can be a barrier to education. The first thing we're going to do is to set up a pilot to poverty-proof the school day. So it's going to be working with a small number of schools to start with, maybe one primary and one secondary, and working with them to understand all the aspects of their school day that cost people money, and then developing a toolkit and an action plan to help them start to reduce and eliminate those costs, with the idea that it kind of supports people to stay in education and they're not going to be put off or miss out on activities because they're on a low income. The second project is to work with schools and communities and partners. So that might be commercial partners, it might be community groups, as well as schools. And that's really about improving access to no and low cost uniform, and also other essential learning tools, such as it might be GCSE education packs that we can provide, and then have a sort of a lending system and then bring them back in. And again, that's about removing the barriers to education. So if you don't have the uniform, you might not turn up to school so often, and we all know how important attendance is. The third project here is about expanding opportunities for students to participate in other aspects of school life. So what we're focusing on here is access to the more extracurricular activities, such as arts, sport, music. We've looked at the research, and it says that people who get involved in those sort of things, people who study arts or learn an instrument, are far more likely to attain better academically as well. So this is really around supporting those children who may not be able to afford an instrument or music lessons, to enable them to do that. The third area is cost of a fulfilled life. And this is really about helping people to not just exist, but to live. When we've done our cost of living surveys over the last 12 months, one of the things that we've seen is people saying, well, I can just about afford to eat, but I have no life because I don't go out, I don't do anything. So this is really about tackling that. So we want to support residents on low incomes to get better access to leisure and arts and cultural activities. We've already done quite a big piece of mapping work to identify the quite considerable amount of things that are already available in the borough. So now it's about understanding what that is, bringing it all together, but also thinking about what are the barriers, what is stopping people from accessing that, whether it's transport or childcare. So we're trying to understand that, and then we can support people to access those things better. And the second piece of work on that is around looking at how we provide training and job opportunities. So quite a lot of work with the DWP and with other organisations. So, for example, there was a jobs fair, I think, last week that we've been involved in and supporting. And finally, under challenging mindsets, this is really about sort of us as a council rethinking how we see people in hardship, but also supporting our residents to challenge their own mindsets about their situation and how they can help themselves. The first project is really looking at how people access different services and how joined up that is. So we've called it No Wrong Door for the moment. What it's really about is, first of all, as a council, understanding all the different points of access and trying to be much more joined up about how, if someone comes in to one department, it's upskilling our staff to understand where else they can signpost someone to without them having to go off and do that for themselves and tell their story hundreds of times to different departments. And also we want to work with the voluntary sector to connect up as well. The second piece of work there is it's actually a piece of work that's been commissioned by our public health team, and that's understanding better the lived experience of people in financial hardship, and that's part of a wider health inequalities project. So you may have already heard about this one in particular, but it's really about understanding what the health inequalities are in the borough and how we can look to address them. And then the final piece of work is we're supporting a wider programme of communications, raising awareness of all the different support that's available. So we really want people to access support where they maybe haven't before. So there's quite a lot of targeted communications around that, and that's already been quite successful, but we want to develop that further. And I'm going to stop there and ask for questions.
Steve.
First of all, thank you, Emily, for that report. It's very helpful. The written report in the agenda is really a sign of great work, I think, that's been going on. And I'd like to extend my thanks to all who've been involved. We've got Amy and Fiona here, so I can thank them personally for all the work they've put in and their colleagues have put in. But this has clearly been a brilliant piece of partnership work where the council, in a spirit of true partnership, is working alongside its partners as an equal. And we're all equals. We're all trying to achieve the same objectives, which is trying to tackle poverty in the borough. And I think there are in Wokingham two different kinds of problems related to poverty. The first is challenge created by the current cost of living crisis, which is clearly tipping many people who normally would have been able to manage into real hardship, and elevating some of those who would never have imagined they'd be in hardship into the only just managing category. But we've got the second challenge, which is a significant number, and we shouldn't underestimate how significant, of people who are in difficulty, not just as a result of the current cost of living crisis, but are in difficulty. And it's worth stating, I think what all of us know instinctively, that to be not well off in a well-off area is really tough, very tough indeed, because there's often the lack of that kind of social network to sustain you that exists in areas with much higher levels of deprivation. So this is really good work, and I wanted to applaud it. And I also wanted to really just comment, if I may, on one particularly pleasing feature of your work, which is the way you've identified the importance of going beyond simply giving people the means to survive. And I really applaud this cost of a fulfilled life, because I think that's what we must aspire to. Everyone in our community having the chance not just to get by, but to live happy and fulfilled lives. And I think all of the things you're working on there is, to me, is really particularly valuable. So a very big thank you, and keep up the good work.
What, Charles and then Prue?
Thank you, Charles. Apart from echoing Stephen's words, a few years ago, I went to give a talk to a sixth form, not in this borough, in a neighbouring borough. I got asked a question by a sixth former, which threw me completely, which was, why should we help poor people? Which you can imagine why it threw me. Of course we should help poor people, and not because we're just coming along like Lady Muck and distributing our arms or whatever it is, but because it could be any Lady Bountiful. That's the word I'm trying to think of. Thank you, Stephen. But it's because this could be any of us, and I think that the current cost of living crisis that we've gone through, and all the things that have happened, consequences of COVID and all the other things, this could be anybody, and we have to help each other. It's part of the cement that holds society together. And so I'm really pleased that we have this tackling poverty objective, that we have the partnership with the outside organisations, and that we're making progress. As a community, let alone as a council, we cannot solve poverty in this area, but we can try and help where we can, and we must do that. And so I'm very pleased that we are working on that. I would congratulate you all on all that you do and all your different organisations do. And it feels to me like a fundamental principle of a decent society. And so, yep, let's do more of it if we can.
Thank you. And I think I'll echo what Stephen said, that being poor in a rich area is often harder than where there are others who are not so well off like you. And so it's much more stark, and there aren't so many of the support networks available. So it's something that we really need to look at. We've got Charles and then we've got Alice.
Thank you. I was going to ask a question. Basically, obviously, you've got lots of strategic aims in here. And Emily, you referred to the press release earlier about the 250,000 invested by the Hardship Fund. It's the same question, actually, as I asked the last speaker, which is money and strategic aims have to be aimed at outcomes. So when are we going to see some KPIs realistically that can be reported back to this group, showing how this money's been spent and how we're working towards actually concrete differences on the ground?
Louise, did you want to take that, or shall I?
I'm very happy to. I'm very happy to. With regard to each of the projects and the bids where money has been assigned to those bids, there are KPIs that have clearly been set up against them so that we can absolutely report on their success and be able to then report that back into the different boards as required, because obviously we do want to be able to share that success and how that those programs are progressing. I hope that answers your question, and I don't know if there's anyone else online that wants to add to the points I've just raised.
David, can I come back on that briefly? Thank you for that. Note what you've said. Is it possible that if we in the Wellbeing Board are being asked to look at this plan, that some of these reports could be circulated amongst this board?
Yeah. Sorry, that's absolutely fine. I'm very happy to circulate things and share.
Thank you. Alice?
Thank you, Chair. Just to share, I wanted to have a look at the report, because one of the things that health has not been identified as well. There are people who have struggled with prescriptions and also transport to appointments. So and a lot of that hasn't been. I've not seen it being addressed, because that also has got an impact as well. Equally, what are your preventative measures? What are you looking at so that we don't, so that people know that you've got something in mind to help them? Because I don't think it's as far as I'm aware, it's not communicated very well that you've got this hardship fund. As much as you are, when you look at the demographic side of it, there are communities who are not aware.
So just coming back with regard to that awareness piece, Alice, we are absolutely trying our best and trying to use data. I know that we've got somebody on the team that's trying to support that so we can get that into the right places. Obviously, coming to these boards is part of why we want to circulate and get the work known. We will also have leaflets that have been recently drawn up, and we want to share that information as much as we can and as widely as we can. Again, I don't know if anyone else on the Alliance wants to add to those points that I've just raised that Alice has just brought up.
So just to add, and thank you, Alice, for raising. So transport is covered in some of the work that we're doing on the Year 2 action plan, because we are conscious, as you are, is that transport is most definitely a barrier with accessing a lot of things, including leisure activities, but equally health activities as well. So we're just finalising our scoping piece of work around that and pulling together the research. So your feedback, particularly from a health perspective on that, would be really helpful in shaping what we do with that going forward, bearing in mind that there are, in theory, a lot of organisations out there that should be providing that kind of transport, and obviously one of the key things that Emily highlighted is we're not here to replicate. We're here to make sure we point people in the right direction for any support that's already out there. So yes, transport is on our list. It's always top of our list when it comes to older people anyway. But thank you for raising, Alice.
Thank you.
Hi, I've just got a few questions really, to probably a bit more detailed. With the pantry that you're setting up, I've got this beef that we don't teach children anymore to cook appropriately from scratch. And I was just wondering, in your pantry, obviously you're not going to give out recipes for low-cost recipes for foods that you're not going to stock, but is that going to be part of the education in the pantry to either, you know, hand out low cost or, you know, signpost them to, you know, I know BBC have done, you know, foods for under £1 for a family and things like that. So one, are you going to kind of look at the education of how to cook for yourself and maintain health that way? Love the idea. I was a musician. I love the idea of, you know, thinking about other activities that children can do. But again, just some thought around that is, you know, the kid may want to play a trumpet, but the neighbours might complain quite a lot. So, you know, it's, yes, do we have a, you know, do that, but actually is there a safe space, either at a local church for some of these kids to get together and practice, or after school? Low cost activities, yeah, amazing. I think we should just tell everybody about those, because, you know, quite a few of my colleagues at work are kind of falling into this just about managing. And it's interesting seeing what they're doing with their kids just to get through. The hardest bit I think you're going to have is the mindset. You know, I think for a number of years, you know, we've been told through social media that we need to look like this, have the largest TV, the best phone. And if we have all of those, we'll be happy. And I think we just need to kind of change that. You know, if your kids, you can spend time with your kids and laugh, great, you're doing really well. But so I think the mindset, I'm glad it's there, but I think it's probably going to be the more difficult one to tackle.
Okay. I can probably answer the first 2 points there. So on the community pantry, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's not just about dishing out food and letting people get on with it. We've looked at lots of different models of this type of thing across the country, and there's lots of good practice, and certainly things like recipe cards are part of what we want to deliver. But we're not just going to stop ideally at having a pantry. The idea is to develop this further. We've looked at the opportunities for a community kitchen where we could bring people together and have cooking sessions, cooking lessons, whether that's with specific types of food or maybe using slow cookers or energy efficient items. So that's something we're exploring for once the pantry is set up as well. So yeah, we're certainly trying to think of that holistically and not just being just a normal supermarket. As far as the music goes, yeah, absolutely. I think what we're not going to do is just keep our minds closed and say all you need is an instrument and a teacher. It's what are all of those barriers to somebody learning an instrument? And it might be that, you know, you might be living in a house that's overcrowded and your siblings are trying to do their homework in the same bedroom. So it's about can we provide the space for people to do that as well, and whether that's within schools or somewhere else. We need to look at that. But we really want to hear from the experts in the sector as to the best way to do that.
Thank you.
I don't think there's any other questions, so thank you very much, Emily, and all of you, in fact, and thank you for all you've done and all you're going to do, because it's an ongoing thing, and it's great to see that, you know, you're going forward and you have a vision to help the people who need help. And there will be some people who will come into that category and some people who will leave that category as you go forward. But it's making sure that we catch as many people as possible who need the support and help that we can give to them to at least make their lives a little bit easier and to give them ideas of how they can go forward positively. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got the vision update. I know Stephen was worried that he was going to have to do this, but I think, yes, Jackie's here.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm Jackie Whitney. I'm Assistant Director of Customer and Change. And I'm here just to give you a quick overview of the community vision that we're actually devising with a group of partners. Now, I've got Nick on the call as well, Nick Fellows, who's the chair of our steering group. So, hey, Nick. What I'll do is you've got the packs in front of you, so if there's any questions then I can take them at the end, but if I just maybe just talk through and give you a view as to where we are at the moment, and then Nick can come in with a couple of comments around how we are working on this in a collaborative way. So the community vision, in terms of why, vision aims, essentially what we want is this vision to be part of our community. We want the community's input as much as possible. So this isn't a vision for the council. This is literally a vision for our borough, with input from residents, businesses, anyone who lives across the borough in our community. And we want this to feel like a place that people can call home. They feel safe, they feel happy, they feel healthy. And also a true sense of belonging and a feeling like they're a strong part of the community. So that's kind of that's sort of where we're trying to get to in terms of that sense of that vision. What we've done so far is we've working with an external steering group to gather feedback. So we're really listening to the voices of our residents and communities so that we can gather feedback and input in order to essentially put pen to paper and draft this community vision. And the vision really is forward looking. So it will be ambitious. It's not necessarily something we can do right now. It's looking kind of 10, 15 years hence into the future to really describe what we would like our borough to look and feel like. So that's why it's really important that we get the community involved in all of this. Over the last few months, we've held some vision sessions with a not-for-profit organisation called You Local, and they've just helped kickstart that conversation with our community and with some brilliant partners who we're working with on this. What we identified through those workshops was really 6 key themes, and one of those, as you can imagine, is health and well-being, about how we keep our communities healthy and happy and promote well-being by all of the activities that we've been discussing, that you guys have been discussing this evening. There's other elements as well, so engaging with businesses, obviously engaging with young people because that's the future, looking at environment sustainability, equality is incredibly important, and something that we call community power, community engagement and community power, which is essentially empowering communities to do things for themselves and build that sense of belonging and help and support. So we're not doing to them, we are supporting them to do that. When we went through some of the vision sessions, we talked about actually if we were going to do this, what would we want the vision to be? If the vision could be one thing, what would we want it to do? Aspirational is one of those things that we've spoken about. Empowering people, improving quality of life for our residents and communities was really important, and reducing inequalities, particularly around health, and increasing opportunities for all as much as possible. Focusing on outcomes is really important as well. So outcomes with key measures to make sure that actually this vision is something that is realisable. May not be today, but over time this is realisable to get where we need to be. And one of the other aims really was to build on that collaboration piece of work. So making sure that we work with our partners across the piece. Within your packs, you'll see around the governance. So we've got an external steering group working on this. Nick is the chair of the steering group, and then we have Tony, who's from Places Leisure, who is a deputy chair. So the council are acting as a partner within that group. We're not leading it, we're facilitating some of the activities around engagement, but we're certainly not leading the work. We are a partner around the table with those other partners that are documented within your packs there. Nick, I don't know if you wanted to come in with any comments at that point about collaboration.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. And I'm excuse me, I'm privileged to chair the group, and really delighted to see the strength of support for the steering group and this work that's continued over the months of operation since the first meetings were held at the beginning of the year, I think in January. So there's still a lot of interest and a lot of enthusiasm for it, and there's a number of sectors that are well represented at a good level. So there's a strong buy-in from members of the steering group for their sector, representing their sector. And I think that bodes well for us getting good input from all sectors of the community. And I think that's really important, from the business sector, education, as well as health, young people, the ones that Jackie has mentioned already. So at the moment, there's a consultation out to garner as much feedback as possible from as many people as possible, so that those desires, I suppose, of different sectors can be factored into the longer term aspiration. And I think it's very much about trying to engage the community for the future, because I believe it's inevitable the public sector will have a smaller role to play. It will have a really important role to play, but its buying power will be very much restricted as we go forward. And the community input to running local facilities, running local groups, and really sort of pulling the community together will be much more in demand. So if we can start in this way and look 15 years ahead and then work backwards and put some building blocks in place, then hopefully we have a really good opportunity to shape the borough and what it will be like in the future. And it's very important to say as well, in the message we're getting across, we don't want people to comment on what's going wrong now in their views, or what might be good tomorrow. It's very much about looking for the longer term and planning towards that.
Brilliant, thanks, Nick. So some of the work that as Nick's saying, we're working in a really collaborative way to gather feedback. So we have 2 online surveys. One is a short survey, one is a longer survey. But in addition to that, we're using the steering group and other connections and reach that we all have across the steering group to run some sessions that are qualitative. So what we're not saying is you have to go online to contribute. Absolutely not. We're using all of our reach to garner feedback from all areas of the borough. One of the examples I'll give is the last steering group. We had Paul from Reading Football Club. I know that he's facilitating a session in November with a large group of young people. Perfect opportunity to grab feedback. So, but obviously the messenger sometimes is more important than the message. So it's about Paul identifying the best way to engage those people rather than us coming in and asking them questions. That's obviously not what we are, what we want to do. We want to make sure that the right person is asking the right questions in the right way so that we can grab that feedback to create the vision, which is ultimately what we're aiming for. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Jackie and Nick, and then we've got Stephen.
Thanks very much, both Jackie and Nick. I know very much what great work you're both doing, and I would completely endorse everything you've said about the commitment and incredible enthusiasm of members of the steering group. It's wonderful to see. I'd also very strongly endorse one of the things Nick said about the long-term future of councils. Councils, I think, in straitened financial circumstances, and I don't think we're going to ever, in the foreseeable future, be out of straitened circumstances, need to work much more creatively. and partnership working is the key way forward. And this item on the agenda is a classic example of partnership working, both in the sense that it is about a jointly authored community vision, which will inform the council's own plan for the future. But it's also part of partnership working because it's uncovering all sorts of connections and opportunities that I don't think we ever knew existed before we started on this work. So the work itself is important, but some of the collateral benefits coming from it are fantastic too. I mean, that connects it with the previous item, which again was about working in partnership, a partnership of equals. It's the same theme being played out with the community vision. And dare I say, that's what this board is also about. It's a partnership of equals. So I think gone are the days when the council could aspire to do everything itself on its own. We have to work together with others. But the crucial thing is we have to work alongside them. And it's about pooling our efforts, expertise, knowledge, experience, data, and ultimately resources, human, material, and financial, to really do what we know needs to be done in the borough. And I think if we can draw inspiration, I think, from the great work you're doing on the community vision, and the great work that's going on elsewhere in making partnership working real and concrete, and it's producing great results. So a very, very, very big thank you from me to Jackie for all the work she's committed to this and the time and effort, and all of her support officers, but also to Nick, who's taken on this role as chair. He says it's a privilege. I'm not sure it always can appear that way, but it's really, I'm immensely grateful for you doing it. And symbolically, as well as practically, it was very, very important that the chair of the steering group was not somebody associated with the council. So I think that sends us a really clear signal that this is a community vision, not the council's vision. So thank you very much. And I think I've said more than enough on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anyone else got any comments or questions?
It's worth just bearing in mind that there are two asks of this wellbeing board, which we shouldn't forget. The first is if we as a board or any individual board members have any input they want to add to the community vision, the opportunity is here. We're keen to hear from you, but we're also keen to make use of your networks and connections. And if you can make it obvious to all those you interact with that this work's going on here, and it's not the council, it's the community. And we really would like input from everyone who is able to give an input. So if you could use your connections and networks to promote what's going on here and get people involved. They can do it through the Engage platform, where there's 2 questionnaires up at the moment. And we would really welcome responses from across the public health sector.
I was just going to say the health, specifically the NHS health voice is important, and also the other associated health professionals who are not in the public health, so they're associated with us, but pharmacists and dentists and all those other people as well. So, but also there are a lot of other health professionals involved in our community, and I'm not sure how strong their voices. So we have quite a large number of physiotherapists, for example, and physiotherapy practices who can do an awful lot for our residents, and have a big role to play in this, and I'm sure would be worth engaging. But also perhaps they come in through Tony being the vice chair, but all the gyms and other health facilities that we have, the more like fitness side is also quite important. And I don't know, I know Alice has got her hand up now, so I was going to ask, and I hope Health Watch is making a good contribution, so she can tell us now.
Alice?
I was going to go. The only question I have is the fact that the communication side of it, you know, I always talk about the engagement and communication, but also to find out about accessible information standard. Do you have materials in different languages as well as easy read so that we can reach out to the community? Is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But yes, Chair and Madam, Health Watch is part of this conversation in this vision.
Yeah, we're really grateful. Thank you, Alice.
We really thank both Jackie and Nick for all the work they've done, but also their teams as well. And yeah, if any of us can get involved, I think that's, as Stephen said, that's positive. And also our networks encourage them to get involved so that we get a vision of the whole borough and not just a few of us. So that's important too.
It is.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So we'll move on to the update on the flu and COVID vaccination from the ICB. I'm not certain. Is it Sarah?
Hello, yes, that's me. Thank you very much, Chair. So you will have seen the supplementary paper with some of the comms materials that we are rolling out as part of the flu and COVID vaccine campaign this year. So I won't talk through them slide by slide. I know that you will all have had a look at them in advance. I would just draw your attention to the fact that some of the materials are downloadable. So if you did want to be tweeting those or putting those out through your channels to the public as well, that'd be great, just to help raise awareness and keep pushing this forward. One thing I would note as well is I'm discussing with our comms team around the local presence in Wokingham specifically to make sure we are reaching the right communities, and Ingrid and I have been messaging about that as well. So we'll be linking in with Ingrid and the public health team there as well. I appreciate the information that so far is in the slides. It's quite focused on some of the more deprived areas of Reading, but we need to make sure that we are taking a tailored approach, including in Wokingham. And apologies for the typo. I am conscious that Banbury is not in Berkshire. I'm not trying to do a land grab on the other parts of the country. So in future meetings, I'll also be able to bring some more data around actual specific uptake and how we're doing, but I can add some verbally today. So from a COVID vaccine perspective, we do have some data, and we're 5 weeks into the programme at the moment. In Wokingham, we've got just over 60,000 residents that fall within the kind of eligible population. And so far we've had just over 16,000 uptakes. That's about 27% on average across our Wokingham borough. Clearly within there are variations that we're working through, linking into my earlier comments around how we're targeting some of our action there. That's the data on COVID at the moment. We're just awaiting the national data on the flu, so that we'll be able to share that with you going forwards as well. And then also just to note that we are looking, so within those priority cohorts, that includes residents in care homes and care work, frontline health and care workers. And again, Ingrid and I have just been having a discussion around whether there's more we can do to be able to vaccinate care workers in care homes at the same time as the care residents. So I'm taking that back to our team to see what the art of the possible here is, to make sure that we can do that in the seamless way possible. At the moment, clearly those care workers are able to book through the public forum platform as well to be able to get their vaccinations too. So that was all I was going to highlight today, and I'm very happy to take any specific questions that I can either answer here or take away to the team for further consideration.
Thank you, Sarah. A couple of comments or questions there. One is, I've heard from quite a few GPs and other people that uptake might be slower because people are getting fed up with getting vaccination for COVID and so on, and it'd be interesting to see how our uptake is against the national average and things like that as well.
Yes, of course. So at the moment we are just slightly over 1% over the national average at week 5. So we are in Wokingham, we're doing as per the national position. I appreciate the point around vaccine exhaustion, and so the work we need to do is really reiterating why it is important, and coordinating with public health colleagues as well and colleagues such as Healthwatch to make sure that we are able to get that message out in a way that is heard and understood, and not just felt like that it's the same old message again, and people are exhausted of hearing it. Because it really is important that we are all continuing to get our vaccinations, and they really do have an impact, and it really is vital that where possible people come forward for their vaccines.
And I agree with that. As a vulnerable person, I've had mine, so that's a tick. But anyway, Drew, you got a question?
Mine are booked, and I qualified sadly on the grounds of age, so that's a bit sad. I just wondered about. Yeah, I'm sure that Ingrid is on this, but we have a number in the list that you've got of where you're advertising, kind of in Berkshire West. We have our own soft play centres, and you can advertise there. We have some children's centres where you can get things out to pregnant women, for example, and young children. We have nurseries that I'm sure would take it. We have Dinton Pastures where there's a lot of children's activities and young children. We don't have further education colleges or anything, but we do have schools with sixth forms where I think it's important to put something out, and our own council tools that can be used, but also push out through our partners. And I wondered whether you had thought of doing anything on buses. They have the rolling adverts on buses, and that's where you can catch a captive audience, because they're stuck there sitting on the bus going along. And quite a lot of people on buses are older people who might well qualify, or people who have different medical conditions. It means they can't drive, so they might fall into the more vulnerable category, or whatever the things are, the different conditions that people have. So I wondered whether that was somewhere that you considered.
Thank you. Yes, so we do have some of the adverts on the rear end of some buses, and I can check the routes that are covered by that. And you're absolutely right in terms of the other centres and areas that we could be advertising this, and that's something Ingrid and I will be discussing. I think some of it is around how do we align those routes out that we've already got, so working with your comms team and the comms teams of partners, and reaching directly to the schools to say, could you promote this as well locally, which I think would be really helpful. And on some of the children's facilities, as a mother of 2 young children, I could probably personally go around and poster a few of them, spending most of my weekends there. So yes, I very much appreciate that there are areas that we could be doing more in Wokingham.
Yeah, can I just say the NHS does push out direct. I've had 3 invites when I go, I've had it, and the flu. But you have one from your pharmacy, you have one from your surgery, and you have one from the national team as well. So of overload, you do get quite a few reminders as well come through to you.
Ingrid?
Thank you. Yeah, it was just a couple of points really. So I think the one, obviously we'll continue to work on this throughout the season, and then onwards learn and improve it year on year. I think that we in Wokingham, we had our COVID vaccination centre in Shoot End, and we haven't got that this season, so I do think that is a bit of a gap. But we do have 2 walk-in pharmacies within very short distance of Shoot End, and I think sometimes having the message that is you are eligible for your vaccine is one thing, but actually what you need to go is, whilst these 2 places you can walk in and get it, is make it easy. So I think that rather than getting people to log on to the website, find out where they can go, is letting people know where the most easily accessible places are in Wokingham to get your vaccine. So I think that's something we can work on. And I think then just a point for this board to note really is that for both COVID and flu jabs for workforce across the winter, that really is a point about system resilience, and it is important that as many people as possible, as many people in our social care and healthcare workforce as possible, are vaccinated to try and keep our system running across winter.
Thank you, Ingrid. And you know, all those points are very, very important, and I'm sure Sarah would say the same thing as well. Debbie?
Sorry, just a thought on, I think there's comment about kind of getting fed up of having another vaccine. Certainly last year, I work at Swallowfield, we were telling our patients that the expectation is that we thought, and it's obviously come to fruition, is that the COVID vaccine may be like the flu vaccine, and actually there'll be a new one every year, because in the flu vaccine, obviously we look at either 2 or 3 years in the vaccine, so it changes every year, which is the reason why you need it every year. And COVID potentially is going to be the same. So Sarah, I don't know whether the national team have given any guidance about, you know, the people who are coming into contact with people at the moment to give their COVID vaccines. Are we suggesting, supporting them to say, you'll probably need it again next year because there'll be a new variant? So if we're giving that information now, then there'll be the expectation that they'll have it with their flu jab again next year.
That's a really good point. I'll take that one away.
Yeah, and that's important that, you know, if we have to have it every year, we have to have it every year. But you know, people need to get used to that, and you have the flu every year, you have the COVID every year. So that is an important point. Okay, I think I can't see any other questions, Sarah. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you for that presentation. And now we've got the Wellbeing Board terms of reference. Is this Ingrid or Karen? It's Karen.
It will be me, yes. Thank you, Chair. So I'll keep this brief because the terms of reference have been circulated to all board members for feedback. The feedback has been incorporated into the draft that's been circulated with the minutes. And it should just be very reflective of where we are today in terms of our Health and Wellbeing Board. So hopefully it resonates and sets the scene of to what we are trying to achieve, what we expect our member organisations to be doing, and how they should be working towards health and wellbeing outcomes and reporting here. So it really is just here for that sign off from board members tonight, so that we can ensure that partner organisations and the partnership groups that work towards the activity around that are aware of what needs to come to board, and we can hold them to account around that.
Has anyone got any further questions or comments?
It's not a question. I'm entirely happy with the terms of reference, so don't panic. I just wonder, I understand why we're the Wellbeing Board, because it got too much emphasis on the health side to start off with, but it feels out of step with everybody else. And I just wonder whether we should go back to calling it the Health and Wellbeing Board, because that's what everybody else calls it. But I don't want to, sorry, with respect to health colleagues, it doesn't need to be a health dominated agenda. I'm sure you can understand the point, and that's, I think, the rationale for the change. But I find differences in nomenclature different, you know, it's just puts up a question mark. That's all. I'm not fixated on it, but I just wonder whether we might consider it. Yeah.
The term Health and Wellbeing Board is quite often used in there interchangeably with a Wellbeing Board. So maybe we should take Wellbeing Board as a shorthand for Health and Wellbeing Board. I don't know. But I like Prue, I'm very happy with the content. I don't have any problems with it at all. Thank you.
So Sarah Ebbs's hand come up. So I don't know if that was to answer that one. If not, I can come in.
No, that would be on another point.
Yeah, fine. So I think the Health and Wellbeing Board is kind of the statutory responsibilities. That's how it comes down from national government. I think the context was before my time around our board being a Wokingham Borough Wellbeing Board, and that was the title we respected when we revised the terms of reference. So it is and of the same thing. It was just reflecting local terminology. You know, we can take it away, Prue.
I think, I mean, quite often it's said the Health and Wellbeing Board, although it's the Wellbeing Board. So, I mean, it's interactive, but I'm not too worried. But you know, because I think we each work together, and it's working together. That's the important thing with health and well-being. And as it's that's the national name, it might be good to go back to that. And because we're working together, and it's a partnership of equals, and neither of us is above or below each other. So that's important.
Can I just clarify that if you do want to go back to Health and Wellbeing Board, you'll need to vote to do so.
Yeah. Do you want to propose it?
Okay, I'll stick my toe in the water and say yes. I propose that we change the name to back to Health and Wellbeing Board.
Oh, and purely because the report, or rather the terms of reference, do refer to a Health and Wellbeing Board, I think for the sake of just tidiness, that probably would be the best way forward. So I will second that.
Can I have all those in favour, please?
How exciting.
Okay, so your toe got warm. So okay, we've got Nick and then Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just one small comment on membership. I believe 3 years ago the terms of reference were varied to include 2 representatives from the voluntary sector, and that's not written into this this version. So I could just ask if we can go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Thanks. I think my point might free up a chair for Nick and colleagues, because I think we only need 2 representatives from the ICB rather than 3.
That's fine. We can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? So do we need to propose this into action? So can I propose that we accept these terms of reference with the as amended and recommend them to council? Okay, so I'll propose it. Have we got a seconder? Stephen, all those in favour? Okay, anyone against? Okay, thank you very much indeed. So now we just got to look at our forward programme. On the 14th of December, we've got the local transport plan, updates from the ICP.
I was going to ask a question actually, which is the local transport plans being to overview and scrutiny. So is there a reason it's coming here as well?
Yes, it's just a different form of consultation.
Okay. Have we got anything? Have we got anything else that we need to look at in December that people can think of at the moment?
Chair, it may not be for December, but I did recognising comments earlier about health domination. I did just wonder whether members had any requests for either information about the future of Rawbarks or kind of current performance, current issues. I know some of colleagues in other health and wellbeing boards have asked for regular updates, so I'm happy to work with you about what we put on.
I think that would be very, very useful, and perhaps almost at every one, that'd be good to have a short time just looking at how things are going forward, the possibility of redevelopment or whatever, and things like that. Because I think if we kept abreast, we can know what's happening. So that's very, very, yes, that would be very useful. Thank you very much. Has anyone else got any comments? Or Alice?
I have to always have the last say. We would like to bring to the board our activity that we are doing at the moment, which is a GP access project that's going around Wokingham So we're doing a roadshow at the moment, trying to increase awareness about the new way of working and what does the public think about the new way of working and the NHS app. So that's
Thank you.
taking place. That's taking place soon now.
Thank you very much, Alison. Yes, I think that'll be very appropriate. So I think suddenly the the agenda is filling up quite nicely. So and if anyone has any other issues that they want to bring to either to December or to February, do please get in touch with us.
I don't know when it will be the right time, but I think it might be useful to bring whatever we're calling the harm outside the home strategy for children to hear what activities we're doing to protect children who are at risk. But I don't know. I don't think December, but possibly in the new year. And that would be a helpful thing to bring.
So that might well come to February. Yeah. Okay. I think that's everything. I can't see any other more comments or questions. Thank you all very much indeed. And we'll see you again certainly in 2 months' time, some of you in a month's time. Okay. Bye.